Welcome to Meet the Creators, a podcast dedicated to the art of business and the business of art. Meet the creative minds behind marketing campaigns, commercials, business, and art. Tune in to better understand the value of creative minds in marketing and business as we build the bridge between business and creative artists.
Welcome back to another session of Meet the Creators. Here we are in Oakland, California with Underdog Film Labs. I'm here with Jesse and Brian, 2 out of the 4 founders of the team that started this business. Jesse, would you mind introducing yourself?
My name's Jessie Hitchens. I do all the scanning and printing here, as well as a good chunk of the customer service.
Good chunk. My name is Brian Brooks. I am maybe the marketing IT-ish guy for Underdog.
That's awesome. A lot of people say film is dead. So my first question to you guys is, why start a film lab?
This project came out of a couple of labs closing. So myself and our other business partner, Dirk, were the manager and film processor and scanner printer, respectively, of a lab called Lightwaves that had been in San Francisco since the mid-'80s and was just chugging along. The owner was like approaching retirement and was kind of checked out, like good guy. It was a great lab, great quality, but he hadn't really been investing in marketing, outreach to new young photographers. And by the time that he was talking about closing the place, we were getting busier and busier without even trying. So when the opportunity came up, it was mostly just something like we talked to each other. We both really liked our job and didn't want to lose it and saw a future in it just based on how many people were coming in. So we approached him about buying the equipment and then ended up talking to Matt at Glasskey, who brought Brian in. And yeah, all of us were just like excited about the work, enjoyed doing it and wanted to find a way to keep it going.
I think that was it. I mean, again, there's a really good Bay Area film community. We're rich, not only historically, but also moving forward. There's a lot of young photographers and a lot of older photographers coming back to film. So it just seemed, this was started, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, we started, Lightwaves closed at the beginning of 2017. So it was mid-2016 that we started talking about it and got the ball rolling. And there were a lot of iterations of what it was going to be, different people we were going to partner with. And it was all, we were all working people. None of us came for money. None of us were higher ups in any capacity. I was making $17 an hour. We scrapped this together with not much. And it took us a few years to find a landlord that would rent to us. Because especially we were south of Market at the time, height of tech taking over industrial spaces. So every landlord that we approached with we're doing a wet chemical process that's going to smell and is going to we're going to need floor drains and a lot of power. All of them were someone who just wants to put a desk of computers in here is going to pay us 3 times more than what you guys have. And you guys have no references and nothing in the bank. But Oakland ended up being a really great home for us. And I think a better fit in the long run. We love this space. It fits us.
It fits the Underdog kind of funkiness. We have in the West Oakland it's good. It's a great spot. But it was many years in the making because I came on board later in the process when you, Dirk, and Matt were already well into planning. So
You mentioned that you were both working people. I want to take a step back a little bit because starting a business is hard, right? Mm-hmm. So where did that fire come from for you to want to start your own business? Where does that drive come from, or even being interested in something like that?
Honestly, a lot of it, for me, my end of it was falling backwards into the business side of it. The real motivation was just I have this job. I like what I'm doing. I like the work. I like the people that I'm working with. I don't really know what else I want to do. There are a couple other photo labs in the city that I could have gone that would have been a total lateral move. And then it's now I'm working for some other guy. I have a relationship with the people here. I can kind of do my own thing. So it really started as a way of I have the opportunity to just keep doing what I've been doing. without having a boss, there was a lot of stuff that like came crashing down afterwards. It's just like, oh, now I have to think about this. Like, oh, now everything's my problem. Like, oh man, like there's a lot of stuff that like none of us have business degrees. There's a lot of like flash in the pan, like figuring stuff out by the seat of our pants, and
yeah, and I think it is. I mean, and again, that's what Underdog's about, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. It's like we're gonna make it happen. We're all like of the age where it's old school DIY. It's like you want it, you gotta make it and make it happen. So yeah.
And I mean, I think Brian and I more than the other two, but all of us kind of came out of like punk scene DIY ethos of just like, no one's gonna do this for you. If you want to do things on your own terms, like you gotta just find a way to make it happen. And all of us are like art school kids. Like we have no businesses the last
MBAs.
Consideration on most of the decisions about this place, but somehow it's managed to work.
Yeah.
I love that, just trying to make a living off of who you want to be and what you want to do for the rest of your life. And it's hard, but it's fulfilling. Is it fulfilling?
Oh, for sure. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's Saturday. We're here.
Yeah.
It brings me to my next question. You guys were talking about the punk and the ethos of it. What is the philosophy of Underdog Films?
I'll take a stab at it. But again, I think we're kind of alluding to it. I think Underdog is it's about the people. It's something that, I mean, it's in the name because we're underdogs. This project was an underdog kind of project to begin with. I mean, I think it's a shared love for film and for creating and bringing people into the space to accomplish their goals, our goals, to support them, and give us money, we'll help you. Give us your art, we'll help you.
No, I love that. I was reading on the website, this is a place where it's not intimidating to walk into. If I'm shooting film for the first time, where I have no idea what I'm doing, there's a very welcoming vibe here. So I think that's awesome.
That's the goal. I mean, it's of no benefit to anyone for people to come in here and not want to be here. Right. So if you're new to it, like the only way that you're gonna get excited to keep shooting more is if like the experience from beginning to end is like fun and welcoming and inviting. So like somebody who doesn't know what they're doing is not gonna keep shooting film if they're greeted with like some pretentious dickhead at the counter who makes them feel small and stupid and insignificant. So like that's bad for business, and it's just like a bad vibe. So it's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And it's like I always think when you say it's warm and inviting, it's like going into like going to a skate shop. If you go to a skate shop and everyone's gonna vibe you, and you're a little kid and you want to learn how to skate or you want to do something, and if you get vibed out of it, that's no fun.
No. Yeah, so. It's definitely no fun. It can be challenging, Talking about that, what would you guys say are the biggest challenges that you've faced so far in the 4 years that Underdog has been in the business?
I mean, there's a lot. There's logistics of like, we're dealing with old equipment. We're dealing with industries that are constantly in flux. We opened this place 3 months before the pandemic hit. Yep. So we were just getting off the ground and then had to completely restructure how we were doing everything. We were only completely down for 2 weeks, but like, we managed to, like, because we were so new and small, we like were able to flip everything around. But yeah, dealing with like Kodak stopped making paper. Now we have to like completely recalibrate all the machines to take Fuji, and like Fuji's back ordered for 3 months and the machine broke and there's no parts available, and like the industry is growing and people are super excited, but the major like makers of all of this stuff have not caught up to demand at this point. So we're up against like monolith industries that are not producing at the level that like there were a couple months that we just didn't have film to sell.
Yep.
And like had people coming in clamoring for it, and like we can't process it if they can't buy it to shoot. So
the challenges that you're talking about on the supply side, definitely they're there. I think they're there industry wide. We're a smaller operation. Some of the bigger labs obviously are getting bigger, more orders, or more have that push to get more orders because they're processing more film than us. But I think for me, some of the biggest challenges is kind of not necessarily getting the word out, but being able to get the word out and kind of scale. because we're at the top right now. I mean, as in capacity and employees. I mean, we have a few employees that are working, and we're working. So I think that our jump to even more, like doubling the output, would be a big challenge for us, definitely going forward.
That is, that's always hard, scaling and keeping up with operations and even dealing with supply and demand. That's a lot to navigate. What did it take from your team to navigate that? How are y'all getting through that?
There was, I mean, on the there was a lot of long hours. There's a lot of just like, we don't have the staff to get everything out, and a lot of orders came in. Like, we've just got to be here for 13 hours that day to get it done, and like, might be here for 13 hours the next day playing catch up. Like, that's just kind of non-negotiable as owners. It's just like, if there's a lot of work to do, we got to do it. And yeah, I mean, as far as like supply chain stuff, a lot of it was just, I mean, Matt is an amazing resource because he's been running Glass Key for so many years. He knows reps at Kodak and Fuji and can like worm his way into like he knows the people to talk to and how to ask for things that we've managed to get stock on stuff that like seems like it's not out there. Matt will find a way to like get his little paws on it.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because there are two other people who play a pivotal role, because we're kind of like Voltron -1, but everyone plays a very major role in this org, because it's Matt on the film side and his knowledge and his mechanical know-how, and Dirk who is processing the film and his knowledge in the darkroom and on the mechanical side as well, and Jesse obviously holding it down in the front and all the scans and prints, and then I'm just out here.
So not quite Voltron, but Fantastic Four.
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you. I like the robot lines though, but I'll take Fantastic Four.
I kind of want to rephrase my last question. As owners, what kind of mindset do you need to be able to overcome whatever the world is throwing at you and overcome those challenges?
A positive attitude. I think Jesse and I are very optimistic folks, but very pessimistic at the same time.
Pragmatic.
Yeah, that'd be a better word. Yeah. But I think a very healthy outlook and willing to support and service the customers we have. Yeah. I think that's the goal, right? We're not here to make money. We're here to keep the lights on, but it's ultimately to support all the great customers we have.
Yeah, and a lot of that is knowing like you can have a shit day and like not want to come back in here the next day, and you just have to, and like it'll all kind of come out in the wash. But part of it is just like, this is our baby. Like quitting is not an option without letting down our customers, like our other partners. So it's a lot of it is like at the bad times just sucking it up and knowing that it's for something bigger than yourself, and on the good days it's just like, I made this, like I'm gonna be here and enjoy, like we built this thing out of nothing. So I think that's the mindset.
I fucking love that. I fucking love that, because as a fellow business owner, you get hit in the face, you get knocked down to the ground, you don't want to get up sometimes. Right. But being optimistic and knowing that you're doing it for something bigger than yourself, and that's what keeps you guys going. That's beautiful. Any advice for other young entrepreneurs out there looking to start a business, and more specifically revolving around art, whether they're trying to brand themselves or just start a new service? What advice would you give them if they're just starting out?
I mean, a lot of it is like just knowing that it's going to change your relationship with your art in a way that you have to make, and you have to figure out like, there are days like I spend 12 hours scanning other people's photos. The last thing I want to do is edit my own or like go out with my own camera. I've seen every photo, like every angle of this street 1,000 times over. But like, so it has like kind of changed my relationship with photography, but also in a way of just like, I've seen this shot 1,000 times. Like, how am I going to make it better? So like knowing that your relationship with the work that you make is gonna change, because as soon as you tie money into it, and as soon as it's something you have to do to make a living, not something that you just like want to do out of passion or whatever, it will change. But it's just about like adjusting that relationship in a positive way and like finding a way to keep going with it and like finding how it works for you.
Yeah, I'd say, and I'd add on to that, find your crew. I don't know, whatever your endeavor is, find your crew, find your support, and lean on them when you knew, and find those people that you can lean on, and knowing that they're gonna get some return at the end. So
community is super important, and that's what like the film community in the Bay Area. Like we're super lucky to have a huge network of people that. I mean, we're sending people to like the people that do stuff that we don't do, and vice versa, constantly. And it's a lot of it is just like you find one or two people that like you, they send 10 other people your way. Like having that network and just being like a good, friendly presence is going to get you so far in like just building those networks and like wanting to be in your space and wanting to be around you, wanting to work with you, like being excited to work with you is like a really good way to just like keep building on what you're doing on your own.
Yeah.
Just knowing you're not alone and being a part of a community can take you further than if you were trying to do something alone. It'll get you through the hard days.
Oh, for sure.
It'll make the great days even better.
Right.
But let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about photography. What is it specifically about film photography that you both enjoy so much?
Well, I started in film photography, so that's number one. So my first job was at a 1 hour lab when I was in high school. So I've always smelt it on my hands. So it's like the chemistry is, you walk into a lab, you smell that smell, you're like, this is a good spot. But yeah, I shoot both. I'm trying to be, I'm not trying to be so hard-edged about photography and is it film, is it digital, is it that, or is it this? Lately, I'm working through this process myself, but I'm primarily a film shooter, and there's more magic in the process and in the image capture, development, and printing than there is just shooting digital, me personally. So.
How about you, Jesse?
And I mean, kind of the same. Like we're both at an age where I started shooting film because that's what there was. Like I never made the choice to be a film photographer. I made the choice to be a photographer, and film was what it was at the time. I also like darkrooms in high school. One of my first jobs was a 1 hour lab. I loved it, and a lot of it too was just like learning how to use those cameras. Those were the cameras that I felt comfortable with. Like the way I describe it to people is like walking around with a tool in your hands versus walking around with a computer in your hands. And I've always felt more comfortable with like a thing that'll crack the floor if I drop it versus it cracking. I never made the choice to be a film photographer. I just never made the choice to be a digital photographer. I just like never switched over. I was kind of just stuck in my ways and lucked into jobs where it was affordable enough to keep going with it.
Yeah, you're better than me.
Brian, you mentioned that there was something magical about shooting film. Do you think it's the process of it and how you got to wait a little bit to see it? Do you think what is your approach to the way you shoot, and how is there magic in that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not that instant. Well, I do shoot instant as well. It is a chemical process. I mean, it's not ones and zeros. I mean, it's light and it's chemistry, and they come together, and it's like it's magic. I don't know if it's just magic, and be able to control, especially control light, control the setting, control your surrounding. I think it's kind of like a challenge. It's like doing a trick. It's like hole in one. It's good when it works, and it never really always works. So. It's always extra magical when it does.
It really is. When everything just comes together like that, it's amazing. Jesse, I know you're a photographer as well, right? We've been talking about that, and you said you mostly shoot street stuff. What is your process like when you're shooting?
I wish I should probably have more of a clear-cut concept. I went to art school, and that was the joke of like, you don't necessarily learn how to take photos, you learn how to talk about it, but I've been out of school for a while, so I'm bad at talking about it now. But yeah, I mean, it's generally a thing that I just like always have a couple cameras in my bag, and something catches my eye, and I couldn't necessarily tell you what or why about it. It's just, it is part of the thing with like, the magic of photography. Something just grabs you in a moment. But yeah, I mean, that's always been my thing. I started taking photos just as an excuse to get out of the house when I was a teenager, like just driving around. And if you're wandering around in a field as a 16-year-old, you look like way less of a creep if you're like, no, I'm taking photos. They're just like,
what I got from that is take your camera everywhere, and when something grabs you and you're inspired, just go for it.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And Brian, when we first spoke, you mentioned your style of shooting was nude Polaroids.
Yeah, I'm more of a So I've in my recent for the past many years now, I've been more into portraiture, nude, classic portraiture on Polaroid instant film. So I shoot a lot of Polaroid, Instax, anything and everything instant for a while now. But yeah.
So what is your process like? Do you do the casting? Do you hire models? How is it like working with them?
A little bit of both. So I do hire models, and I do when I'm looking for very specific projects. Yeah, I'll go and actually at least look at the folks I know, or look at the models I would like to work with. I think that would fit for a particular look or a particular shoot. 9 times out of 10, it's other artists or friends of mine who I'm shooting. It's like they're more friends that I shoot than actually hired models. Some on the other side, most of those people are models, so it's good that way. But yeah, I take the more of a kind of a classic portraiture kind of approach.
That's awesome. That just circles back to community, right? Just taking advantage of the community you have around you and being able to work with them and collaborate with other artists.
I try.
We've talked about what it's like being a business owner. We've talked about the philosophy behind your style of photography, both of you. Can you draw any comparisons with the process of photography and the process of becoming a business owner? Are there any parallels there in terms of mindset, philosophy, or?
There are. I mean, there's a lot of different kind of shooters too. I mean, there's a lot of different personalities. A lot of people approach photography in a different way. I mean, film photography or digital photography. And I can see some of those parallels if people are very precise and have a vision. Like I'm thinking about me, I'm more of a serendipitous. I can lean more serendipitous on ways, which doesn't necessarily lead you to being a great business person. So guessing that things are going to happen and work out. So I think there are parallels, but I think on the scientific side of the photography, where like, your shutter speed, your f-stop, when it's like, to get a good shot, this needs to fall in place. I think that is more on the business side, and the framing and the subject matter and the mood is more on the art side. And at least in this business, it's both. Like, that's why we're talking. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we do too is like not our photography and our art isn't necessarily the business, where like in comparison to say like a commercial photographer who's selling their photos, like what we do kind of the background work, which I've always appreciated being able to separate like the work that I'm making. Like I'm not selling my photos as a business, I'm selling my knowledge in like how to get that stuff and how to like get other people to the point where they can make their photos and sell them and do that on a business side. So we're in kind of a sweet spot where we can like utilize our photography knowledge like in a business way, but also just like our art is a completely separate thing for all of us. Like we all know the nuts and bolts of like getting it processed and like getting a final product out, but like that final product isn't our work.
Yeah.
What advice would you give young photographers just starting out?
Always bring your camera. I'll start with that one.
Yeah. There's so many paths that you can take as a photographer. So a lot of it is just kind of figuring out where you fit and where you want to go with it. And I think that's a thing of piggybacking off of like, I always felt more comfortable working in photography in the processing back end side because I never felt I've never been good at selling my work and networking and all of the stuff that goes into like, if you're making the choice to be a commercial photographer or a fine art photographer, all of that, you can be the best photographer in the world, but like you got to know how to network, you got to know the right people, you got to do all of that stuff. So like you have to kind of figure out where your strengths are. And if you're just coming up in this, it's such a huge scene, like knowing what corner or what path you kind of want to make your way into, like know what you're good at, what you like doing, what you don't like doing, and find find a way to utilize those things like to your advantage.
Yeah. And be true to yourself too.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there's a lot of copycats out there who wants another same picture down that street.
Yeah, because if you're like trying to go the gallery route and you go to a show and everything looks the same, and then you try to do that again, like no one's gonna buy it because it's already up on that wall. It's already been done. Like, do your thing. People might not appreciate it for a while, but like trends come and go, and good work will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like as long as you enjoy it, right? I know a lot of young photographers, and some of them don't even trust their own eye. If you think it's good, don't ask me. Just take the picture. Yeah, you gotta trust yourself.
Yep.
One of my favorite things about my particular job here, and it's like equal parts frustrating and hilarious, is like I see all 36 frames everyone's shooting. Like if you finish a roll, I'm scanning it front to back, so I know like. If I see your stuff on Instagram, like I know which one you thought was the best one, and there are a lot of times that I'm just like, really, that one? Yeah. So just like knowing, trusting your eye, having like, again, going back to community, having other people look at it, like that second or third eye to be like, that one looks like it's gonna get the most likes on Instagram, man, but like that one is the one that like people might not pay attention to, but like that's a good shot. But yeah, it's all about just like trusting yourself and being true to yourself and like trusting the people around you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of self-conscious now. Have you seen my 36 frames before I get my film developed here?
Yeah, it's all on me.
Favorite film stocks?
I'm a classic. I know everyone thinks it's like cliche these days, but I'm a classic Portra 400 shooter.
I kind of gave up on Tri-X a long time ago, and I kind of went down on Kodak. So Ilford HP5 is my #1 film.
Got you. So my question to both of you is why those stocks? What about it?
I like it because it's grainy and it's not Kodak. So. but that was then. I hold on to my hate sometimes. So when back in the day when Kodak was just not in a good spot. Ilford's always been there. They've always been producing good black and white film. So that's why I have a heart that hates. So
yeah.
And Portra?
Mostly, there's a lot of like really cool experimental stuff around these days, and I love playing with it as much as the next guy and expired film and all of that stuff. But Portra is like, you put it in your camera, you know you're gonna get what you're gonna get, and like if that shot looks great, it's because like you got a great shot. It's not because the film, like pre-light leaked film, did something miraculous on that frame or whatever. I know it's like the boring, tried and true, predictable. Like I know what I'm gonna get, so I can go out and like position myself to get what I want to get with it, and it's going to deliver.
You know it works.
I know it works, and it's tried and true. Like I know how all of my different cameras react to it. I know how it's going to scan. I know how it's going to print, and like, yeah.
You know, we've talked about photography a lot, the process, the different styles, your favorite stock. Would you consider business a form of art?
Sure. No, but yeah, if you look at it, I mean, I'm not a business, I wouldn't consider myself a business person, but there are a lot of people out there that, you know, that's what their jam is. They like starting companies, running companies, buying into companies. That's cool. And there is an art to, or there is at least a process. So yes, there is an art to negotiating. There's an art to management. There's a lot of different facets that would lend it to be considered art. I would say, yeah. So I'd say, yeah.
How about you, Jesse? Anything to add?
I don't know. That's a tough question. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a way that you can approach business with a very like rigid, like there's a right and a wrong, and lines go up, lines go down, all that stuff. We haven't approached business that way, so I don't like the way that we've done it. It's kind of is an art form of just like
staying alive.
Creative, yeah. It's all just like creative problem solving. Like this happened, what are we gonna do about it? There's a fair amount of creativity to it. Whether I would call that art or not, you know, art is a subjective term. But the way that we've approached it, I would say the fact that we all have backgrounds in creative endeavors has definitely helped us.
Yeah.
Because if we had gone by the book, I don't know that we would still be here.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, I don't think it would have been as successful as if we opened up a how to start a business book. Yeah. It would have probably failed.
Yeah.
How do you think being creatives yourselves helped you be a business owner and leaders within your own company?
I mean, I think it is just that thing of like being able to kind of whirl around when something hits you, and like you're not, you're like not going to a book, you're not going to a reference guide, you're not like Googling the answer. It's just like, all right, like we gotta figure this out. And having those wheels greased from years of creative endeavors is just like, you kind of have those moves already to just be like, all right, we gotta just like figure it out and trust ourselves to get it going. And it may not be the right way to do it, and if we asked a business advisor, they would tell us we were insane, but like, let's go with it.
Yeah, so I think I'm catching some of the meaning in your question, and yeah, again, what Jesse's saying is because we are creative. I think the whole team is being creative, and part of creativity is failing. That's a big part, or going halfway down the road and going, oh, this is not where I want it to be. So tossing that idea out and starting fresh. So, but I think we've all been able to identify those problems when they come slowly at us or when they come fast at us. And we have all had that experience of failing. So
yeah.
So you've been in business for 4 years. What's next for Underdog? What does the future look like?
We're hoping we just a couple weeks ago opened this part of the space up. We'd been kind of barricaded off and not encouraging people to gather in here since COVID. So we're hoping to have more events, more like photo walks, group meetups, art shows, that kind of thing, more community engagement type stuff, as well as just getting ourselves ready to like scale up to take on more work, whether that's bringing in new team members or getting people trained on other things that they're not currently doing. But yeah, just kind of setting ourselves up to grow more with the community, host the community more.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some of the big plans. Yes, that space hasn't been open since we opened. So we've had a couple events here, whether it's been Polaroid workshop, hosted some just kind of meetups here. People don't really come and hang out here. They come and get the film because that's what they've been trained to. But just kind of, again, open up the space so people can just chill and then talk about photography.
That's awesome. Maybe even host some art shows here, some small ones, some events.
Yeah,
maybe?
small ones. That was an idea. It's been on the books for a while. Our wall space is we have some wall space, but yeah, we're thinking about that as well, and just expanding, like Jesse said, expanding to be able to ramp up more, get more film in and out. So.
Is there anything else y'all would want to explore or talk about or let the world know?
Come to Underdog. We won't snob you. We'll talk to you about what you like and what you don't like. If you want recommendations on film or how to shoot, we're always here.
Jesse and Brian, thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and sharing your experiences. This is Meet the Creators, and we are out of here. Oakland, California, Underdog Film Labs. Come get your film developed here. Come hang out. And we outie.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Creators. I hope you found value in today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and please share with a friend.